What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today we have a very special guest, a young man who has made an impact on and off the field, truly leaving a great legacy, which is what this show is all about. I have Aaron Rouse with us, former Virginia Tech standout safety, former NFL standout. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing well, Dwight. Thanks for having me on here.
Oh, you're welcome, man, and thank you for being on here. And I must add, Virginia Beach City Councilman Aaron Rouse, which is the
Yes,
most important thing.
indeed,
Yes,
indeed, indeed.
yes.
Thank you.
So, Aaron, you've seen a few of these shows. We're going to talk about your legacy today, but you and I are both 757 brethren. I'm older than you, obviously. I was the late 90s crew, the first
Yeah,
guys with
yeah.
the teams. And then, after we graduated, you guys went into, excuse me, the ACC, and you took Virginia Tech to another level.
Yeah.
ACC championships and big pick sixes and big plays. Before we talk about your time at Virginia Tech as a standout safety and part of some legendary defenses, let's talk about your time growing up back home. Let's talk about
Okay.
when it all started. Who got you into sports? Not just sports, but who guided you? Your family.
hmm
What do you remember growing up? On the South Side on Virginia Beach over there. Tell me. Let's go back to
All
that
right.
time.
All right. You want to go back? Let's
Yeah,
take
I
it
want to go
back.
back. Yeah, I want to go back.
I think for the most part, I was born in Norfolk, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm from the St. Paul's quadrant, Youngs Park community from Norfolk, and so I got into sports there. I grew up in a single parent household. I got older twin sisters who are a year older than I am, whose
Mm-hmm.
birthday is on Christmas Day. My birthday 2 weeks later, and I have a younger brother who's a baby who's 3 years younger than I am. My father, was always running the streets, in and out of jail, doing drugs, things like that. If it was my grandmother and my grandfather, who was the one that pretty much helped my mother, keep 4 kids
Yeah.
together, so to speak. And so for me, sports was the avenue of staying out of trouble, of not joining gangs, not following that same pathway that my father took. And so I started playing for the Young Park Clovers. And if you know anything about Youngs Park, pretty much your whole world as a kid revolves around Youngs Park because
Mm-hmm.
the elementary school is in the middle of the projects, and you walk to school basically. That's your whole life, so you don't know too much about the outside world. But we had community leaders like Mr. Austin, may he rest in peace, Joe Austin, who was there, basically like, you gotta, play football, play your sport. He also tried to introduce golf to me, but I was like, golf, I don't see too many other kids around here playing golf, so played for the Clovers, started off at tight end, and sports was that avenue for me to basically stay out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from there. My mother thought it was best that we moved from that environment to Virginia Beach, to the historic SeaTech community, where there's another community housing or project, so to speak. It's called Friendship Village.
Yes.
Well, I didn't think it was the projects,
No,
because when
come
you
from
come
Young Park.
exactly. When you come from the bricks, you coming from the bricks, you don't have central air conditioning. And so when we came to Friendship Village, we had central air conditioning. We just thought like we moved up in the world. We thought like, we made it. We made it. And you quickly realize, your surroundings, because you go to school with so many. First of all, you get introduced to a whole completely different culture, because all you know was you went to a predominantly Black school. There was like hardly any white people there. Your whole world was basically centered around in Youngs Park, and then you come to Virginia Beach, where you see white people, you see Asians, you see all demographics that you weren't necessarily used to, and you're like, this is at the time as a kid, you're like, well, I've never seen so many different people in this place. And so moving to Virginia Beach, again, immediately got back into sports, stopped playing for the Cook Redskins and the Cook Rams, and things like that.
Mm.
And that was my pathway throughout sports, and then having to, I went to First Colonial High School, went to Lynn Haven middle school, and at this time they had what you call the STOP program, right? STOP program was the summer jobs initiative. So my mother was like, listen, y'all got to go out there and get those jobs, because, it was a way for us to help buy our own school clothes, our own school supplies. It was a way to help my mother out. So during the summer, I was working. I was working like as a janitor at the school, cleaning up gum.
Really, a janitor?
Man, yes, I was an understudy for the janitor. I used to work in the school buildings, cleaning up gum, sweeping, cleaning, all of those types of things. Went from there to working at Virginia Beach School bus garage, washing buses, putting diesel in it, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, making sure you at the bus garage at 6. You work throughout the day. Then I would get off from work at one end of First Colonial Road, which is in Virginia Beach, and I would ride all the way to the other end of First Colonial Road to go to football practice. And
wow.
then I would ride home, and I would do that throughout summertime workouts and spring, and really just helped solidify my work ethic, and it helped me, garner the attention of so many other colleges, and Mr. Brian Steinspring, which I'm so thankful for and grateful for, helped garner his attention, and next thing you know, I'm a Virginia Tech Hokie.
Yeah, before we talk about your time at Virginia Tech and who else were recruiting you, and who slept on you, or who you almost went, what school you went to, talk about your time playing high school, because the South Side, your side of the water, when I interviewed Roniel Whitaker, and by the way, Young Spark has produced Deuce has produced some great players. You're part of that legacy. So talk about your time, because I've been often asked, especially when I've done my own interviews, I've been interviewed on radio shows and things like that, what makes that area, that region in Virginia so exclusive when it comes to premier talent, even sometimes talent like yourself that just pops out of nowhere. What was it like growing up for you, as far as when because you were a hard worker, but what was it like for you competing? What kind of battles do you remember? What games? I know it's so many. Take me back to that time, like okay, this Friday night, I remember we played this team, and it was crazy.
It was coming from Young's Park, first of all, the home of Sweet Pete Whitaker, pound for pound, the legendary greatest boxer that lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was from Young's Park, and so for me, being that young and seeing Sweet Pete come from there, it was like you could do the same, like you could be big like Sweet Pete, not big as him, because he was big as the world.
Yeah.
But you could be big as him, but he gave us something much more important. He instilled a sense of pride, of being where we from, that, this is tough. These streets are tough. It's gritty. And if you can survive here, you can make it anywhere. So when I came to Virginia Beach playing high school and football, to be quite honest, I thought these guys were soft. I was like, ain't nobody, and I carried a chip on my shoulder. That's just how I played the game. I thought everybody was soft, because I just realized I in my mind, nobody has been through what I've been through. Nobody's put in this work. Nobody's riding their bike 10 plus miles every day to work and to football practice, being committed and having to look through the old cleats, to put on old cleats and be like, all right, now this one I'm going to do. We're going to take the front. We good. And so I played with a chip on my shoulder. So being in Virginia Beach, I felt like I always had something to prove, because when I played at Lynn Haven Middle School, I noticed like all the kids had parents and dads who would speak up for their kids, like, oh, you need to put him in this position, or he playing this position. Well, I ain't have nobody to talk up for me. They just, all right, you going to play DN. I'm like, I don't want to play DN. I want to play receiver or running back. But I'm on the field. They put me at DN. I was just a nightmare. I was just had the heart. And so when I got to First Colonial, once again, I never had no one to really speak up for me. I'm like, these kids get Gatorade brought to them. Their parents bringing their equipment to them, and I'm over here lugging my equipment, looking in the box for old cleats. Man, I'm about to show them like what's real. I'm I'm about to expose them. The type of physicality I brought. It's like y'all soft. Y'all don't know what the real world is. But that's my mentality I had. So I think I remember always playing against, because I went to First Colonial High School, predominantly white high school, and so
yeah, we played First Colonial. Yeah, we played.
Yeah. And this was coming off the Frank Webster year, which is a legendary coach who believes in that hard-nosed football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those coaches, you just don't make them like that no more, you know, who understands like it's about discipline, doing things the right way, not having any excuses, and really understood the fundamentals of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I have so much great respect for him. And I was lucky enough to have Sam Scarborough come behind him, who come up after Coach Webster. And so we playing against Ocean Lakes, and just instinctively, Ocean Lakes is like a rival for us, right? Yeah. And so we playing this game, and you know, I'm balling out, but it's a tough game. They had this 6'8", 6'9" receiver. I don't even remember the guy's name. He was like 6'8".
Are you serious?
He was like a monster. And so 6'8", they go to play. I played outside linebacker in high school. I played outside linebacker, safety, running back, DN, quarterback, tight. I played it all. I never came off the field. And so at this point in the game, it was tied, and they was driving. And I was like, man, all they going to do is throw the ball up to the 6'8" receiver guy. And I'm my outside linebacker. I'm supposed to be on the line. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But instincts took over. And I'm like, I'm not about to lose this game. And so I started backing up, reading the play. And sure enough, they just try to throw a jump ball to him. And both of us went up, and I got it. I intercepted the ball in the end zone, and we ended up winning that game. Like, that was the most the game. But it was like that every week. I mean, Brandon, you had Brandon Pace, you had Delmas Coley, who went to William & Mary. All of these guys were all-state players. At Zon Burden at Salem, who was Virginia Tech coach.
Zon, that's right.
Yeah, all of us we played against each other, and so you had all these guys and all this talent out here. You had Kai Perham to me, like, I couldn't understand like this guy's type of structure. You know, Kai was like, he was bench pressing 400 pounds in high school. You know, I'm 175 pounds, like 6'2", 175 pounds. And this guy bench pressing 400 pounds, and Kai Perham was like, I think it was like Gatorade Player of the Year, Premier, All Player. Mm-hmm. So I took that chip on my shoulder, because they was giving this dude, you know, rightfully so, all the accolades and praise he had. And I'm like, nah, I'm here. So I had a chip on my shoulder, and in that year, I ended up being Defensive Player of the Year for the city of Virginia Beach. And I was like, yeah, Kai, that was a shot to Kai. He didn't even know it. You know, I don't think Kai knew it. But that was how I, you know, because I always wanted to be the best. Like, they saying this the best, I'm gonna be the best. But Kai Perham had Cedric Humes there.
Oh, my man.
Then they had C.J. Fayton there, who ended up going to Tennessee. I mean, and they had Kai. They had a squad. So whenever they played First Colonial, man, I was like, nah. Like, I just had that, play with that chip on my shoulder. Another memorable example I have playing in high school was when we played Maury High School. And Maury used to play Maury back and forth. And so when Maury came down to Virginia Beach, you know, I know coming from Norfolk, I know them boys, they going to bring it, you know. Yeah. They're physical, and they play with a chip on their shoulder as well, just from, I know the environment they grow up in.
Absolutely. And
so at First Colonial, you know, a lot of the players used to get scared, you know, and I'm like, what y'all scared of? Like, we got the same amount of equipment on. And I remember they had these two running backs they called Thunder and Lightning.
Thunder and Lightning.
And man, they was doing some things. But when they stepped on Frank Webster Field in First Colonial, I put both of them out the game. Like,
really?
I think I put both of them out the game. Like, it just played with this chip on my shoulder, like, this is home. You know what I mean? That type of mentality, that's what you have to carry with you every time you step on that field. And from that standpoint, I just built a reputation of being a hard-nosed, physical, smart player throughout Virginia Beach, where it was to be respected.
Yeah, you mentioned First Colonial. I played high school ball in the 90s. And I remember we went across the water. We scrimmaged them in the summer, and then we played them in the regional final. And they had a All-American defensive tackle. He was older than me, but I was starting 10th grade. He was a senior. You probably remember him, Brandon Noble.
Oh yeah, Brandon Noble. He played for the Cowboys.
Played a long time in the NFL. Was one of the strongest dudes. And I remember just saying, okay, this is something I gotta get in the weight room. But other than him, you know, you're right, because now Virginia Beach has come up tremendously in football. I mean, they're known, but during that time, I remember what you mentioned about being soft. I was like, yeah, the beach, because you thought about, you know, the Strip, you know,
right.
In Norfolk and P-Town and other places, okay, you got to bring it. But then all of a sudden, all those guys you mentioned, I remember after I left, you saw more guys move out there, more guys became standout players. But the fact that you made a name for yourself, obviously word travels fast when you're a standout athlete, and schools started coming after you. Talk about the recruiting process. You know, before you chose Virginia Tech and Stein Spring came knocking, were there other schools involved? Was Tech definitely going to be the choice, or were there other schools that took notice of talents?
I think it's important to notice that now, because of social media, because of technology, the recruiting process is a lot different. You know, I don't like to think of myself as an old guy, but I'm pretty. I'm getting up there. But my recruiting process was one that I really did not know too much about the process of being recruited, because like I said, I come from, you know, very, very humble beginnings. We was poor, so we didn't think about. I didn't necessarily think about college from that standpoint because I couldn't afford college. You know, if it wasn't for coaches at First Colonial High School, Coach Miller, Coach Godfrey, Coach Scarborough, Coach Butts, Mr. Lane, you got Coach Norby. You got all these coaches who were like, no, like you're Coach DeMartini, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but all of these coaches who were like, no, like you have something special. Like you can play ball at the next level. And so they would get together packages and send them out. And next thing you know, you got like Miami, you got Georgia, you got Georgia Tech, you got UVA, you got Syracuse, North Carolina. You got pretty much all the East Coast schools coming. But the one who showed up the first was Brian Steinspring. That's who showed up first. And so when Brian Steinspring, I remember Brian Steinspring showed up first. We were playing Green Run High School, and Brian, he brought his son out there, and the coach let me know, was like, oh, that's a Virginia Tech recruiter right there. And I was like, oh, that's him? All right, watch this. I'm about to go do something. I remember in the huddle, we had a quarterback. I was like, yo, just throw me the ball right here. We're going to do a 9. So he threw me the ball. I went up in Mall State, caught a touchdown, like right in front of him. And I'm like, yeah, you know what time it is, right? you know what's up. You know what's up. And Virginia Tech offered me a full ride, a full scholarship. And I think by this time, I think Beamer and them had came down, visited the school. I remember one time I was in chemistry class, and there was a knock on the glass. And I believe one of our guidance counselors, and the student was like, look, look, it's like Coach Beamer Steinspring looking in the window, you know. And I'm like, oh, man, like Coach Beamer here, you know, they just coming off the 99 championship, you know.
Yeah, at least you were in class. At least you were in
class. Exactly. Chemistry was not my favorite class. And I'm in class, and this was my junior year, by the way. It wasn't even my senior year. And when they came along, and they offered me a full ride, I took that home to my mom. And I didn't even know, like, again, we didn't even fully – I know I didn't understand exactly what it meant. I know I seen Michael Vick, freaking amazing, put, like, Virginia Tech on the map. It was I mean, the 99 championship, what he did in that game was crazy. So I'm like, you got Virginia Tech. I just seen him on TV.
Yep.
And they're right here in my school. They want me. Oh, that's where I'm going. And then I remember Ronier Whitaker, who's from Young Park, was already going to Tech. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a connect there. I'm about, yeah, Ronier Whitaker I was like, you know, in layman's, Ronier Whitaker from the hood. So I know it's good. You know, I know it's straight there. So that's where I want to go. But at that moment, I didn't fully understood what that meant from a life standpoint. You know, I just thought like, all right, I'm about to go to Tech. I'm about to be like Ron. Yeah, I know we're gonna be playing for national championships. But my mother understood that this was going to change the trajectory of our family. That it was going to be like the first in our family to go to a 4-year school. So my mom over here like, you about to go to college? This is great. I'm over here like, man, I'm about to play with Mike. I'm about to be, you know, I'm about to be on the tube. And so one of the main decisions and choices about me going to Virginia Tech was, first of all, I was like, you never leave like guarantees on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is before social media. So you got all these letters and stuff. People say they like it, they want you, they're recruiting you. I know Virginia Tech was there at the table. And so I was like, all right, this is where I'm going. It's in state. Al Groh and them was, I think Al Groh was at the UVA at the time.
It was all UVA, yep.
Yeah, and they was recruiting me, and I was like, man, I just can't feel UVA. You know what I mean? I just won't feeling it at all. So, you know, then I was like, nah. And I had talked to, I can't remember who did I talk. I can't remember the place where I talked to about UVA, but the consensus was, because we had a class. I think we had 6 people from All-State from our area, from Hampton and from Hampton Road 757.
Yeah.
And I think the consensus at the time were the rumor mill was people was going to go to Virginia Tech. So I wanted to be, you know, in that good company of all these other stellar athletes.
Yeah.
So.
And you made a great choice, man. What years?
Almost definitely.
What years for our viewers were you at Virginia Tech?
Yeah. So I graduated in 2002. So I came in 2003 from 2007. So I graduated in 2007. Mm-hmm.
So I've had Rania Whitaker on here on the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight, Deuce.
Oh yeah.
I've had DJ Parker on here.
Yeah.
Willie Powell.
Yes.
So I've had some members, and I still got some guys to get from that DBU legacy, which you're a part of, and then legacy. But those years you were at Tech were very special because you went to Tech not only after that national championship run they made with Mike, when Mike and Andre Davis and company, Andre Kendrick and the guys took it to another level. You went there as they transitioned into the ACC.
Right.
And what I remember about those teams is you had #1 ranked defenses.
Yeah.
You played for Bud Foster.
Yep.
And you also played with an amazing defense. And many
God. Yeah.
Many of you guys were all from VA, which I still think is just special, especially Virginia Tech. And I love my Florida boys, the South Carolina guys, and you know, those guys are great, but there's something special about having that many guys from Virginia. Talk about what it was like to play for Bud, those defenses. And I also think what was amazing, Aaron, is that you guys had personality.
That's to put it light. That's to put it lightly.
I mean, you know, Vince, all you guys, you know, it was all the personalities. But in that secondary, let's talk about that secondary, that defense. The time. Let's take it back now to when
you about to get me hyped. You know, I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills just talking about it. And really, I don't think that those classes get enough respect, like, you know, because they understood exactly what we went through. Because you're right, Michael Vick, that whole run, national championship run, it kind of highlighted and put Virginia Tech on the map. And we felt, as our group, it was for us to sustain that, to make that belief that yes, we belong and take that step forward. And so, man, you talk about the type of leadership we had. You know, first of all, Bud Foster, you know, Frank Beamer, and that whole, you know, Coach Whammy Ward, they set like the tone for what was expected from us, right? And it was reinforced by Rania Whitaker, Vincent Fuller, you know, Justin Hamilton, D'Angelo Hall, Jim Davis, Lilas, Big Dunn, the Davies brothers, Vince Hall, Jimmy Williams. It's so many guys, and then the younger guys who came after us. It was a true brotherhood. You have so many guys from the same area. We was like, we knew what each other were thinking without even having to communicate it. You know, we were seamlessly, and we played as one. You know, we really had that attack the ball type of mentality, and we knew what we could expect from each other. But I think as a young player coming in, to have those guys, Willie Powell and those guys who started a legacy, but it was reinforced into us what was expected. It was like, listen, around campus, y'all go to class, we get it. But once you step on this inside this weight room, inside this Coliseum, inside this Lane Stadium, it's all business. And if you want to be successful, you want to, you talk about the NFL, you talk about making to the next level, then it's about being professional on and off the field. And so for us, man, it was, I tell people all the time, we were like, I could just give a look to like Jimmy or Brandon Flowers, or you just give a look, it's like, all right, we're good. James Anderson, you give a look to these guys and it's like, oh, we own. And we didn't care where, if you got crossed that line, we didn't care where the ball was. When that ball was hiked, we was to the ball. We was on you. And we were much more physical,
Yes,
these days, the game is different. Targeting, we joke about it all the time. My man, Brendan Hill, congratulations, we just got married.
Yes.
And Mike Emo, we were talking about this last weekend, and we were saying, if we played in today's game, like every play would be review for targeting, review for hitting,
no question.
review, because we were just that physical. And we loved the game, and it was reinforced by the coaching staff. We took our brotherhood and our chemistry so serious off the field that when we got on the field, it was like it's cakework. When practice was serious, seeing D'Angelo Hall and seeing Ernest Wilford, seeing them go at it in practice, like both of them want to be the best, but they would get in talk. It was like, oh, it's real. Seeing Ronye talk all the smack in the world, and then back it up on the field, we was like, oh yeah, like this is real here. Seeing Mike Daniels, you got Mike Daniels and Crawford out there, just their intelligence going in the game was crazy. I remember we were playing West Virginia, and this is a game we lost, but it was my first taste of like on that type of stage. I think we were highly ranked that year. It was freshman sophomore year. We're playing in Morgantown, which, by the way, Morgantown is probably one of the most at that time. Like
it was difficult.
Yes,
it was one of the toughest. Till when I'm an air too, it was a tough place to play.
Exactly, very tough place to play. Not to mention they were using all this automated extra sound to basically, drown you out. But this time, Brandon Manning, and right before halftime, Brandon Manning he got hurt. He got hurt on a play, and it was right before halftime. I think it was like one play, and Coach Kavanaugh, Jim Kavanaugh, put me in there.
Coach Cav.
Yeah, and I believe they had to run him. I can't remember his name, but I think his name's like Quincy or something. But anyways, he's running to my side, and right before I go hit him, he gets out of bounds, and Coach Cav, and I didn't hit him because he stepped out of bounds, and Coach Cav played me. I said, "You better hit him." And I'm like, Coach, it's like 1 second before half. He just went out of bounds, and at that time, I was learning even more about playing on that level. His level of detail, attention to detail, and his passion was so high. I was like, oh yeah, like this is it. Like this is what you've been waiting for. This is what you've been wanting, man. But again, that defense was special. Like it was special, and we tried to outcompete the offensive side of the ball as well.
Y'all were good. That was one.
We will see.
Y'all were fun to watch though. Like because I know that attitude you're talking about, that Virginia mindset, because I remember watching you guys play. Because once you're done playing and your pro career is over, I'm a dad, I'm in corporate America. So I made time. That West Virginia game you're referring to, was that the game when y'all were ranked, I believe,
number 3
in the country?
I think we were like 3 or something like
y'all were 3 and y'all were 8-0.
Yep.
And that's the night I think West Virginia it might have been a Wednesday or Thursday night because it
Yeah,
was
it
the
was
last
Thursday.
year
Something.
in
Yep.
Biggie's,
Yep.
and everybody was frustrated. That's the night Coach Beamer tapped Ernest on it.
Yeah.
Tried to make a big deal out of it. I remember that night. I remember.
Yeah.
'Cause,
It was. It's not a night we like to remember, right? It's a night we put behind us, but it was definitely my first taste in a hostile environment. You know, like really hostile, where you had to keep your helmets on.
Yep.
You could take your helmets off. By the way, but I never felt. You know, with those guys we played with, we would walk into anywhere. You know, we would walk into any stadium, any stadium, and felt like we're gonna take this over. You know, that's the type of mentality we had. But in the large part, it came from the confidence came from not only the work we put in practice and in the weight room, but because we were from the same area. You know what I mean? It was almost like a respect thing. It's like you can't go back to the 757 knowing you playing like some trash. You know what I mean? At Tech and not know. They ain't gonna call you out. They're gonna be like, "What, man? Like you representing 757? You from where? Like you just got ran over. Or you doing this?" It was like, nah. It's a prideful thing. That's why when we played against UVA, it was like, nah, bro. Like, nah, we own this state. You know what I mean? The Hokies own this state. That's why when I'm playing against Marcus Hagan and them, you know, my good friend Haig, I was like, nah, hey. I remember the last time we played, I had like 2 picks against him. I was playing the game. Oh man, I was like, no,
52 to 7 or 4 or something.
Yeah. I was like, it's bigger than you, Haig. You know what I mean? Like it's bigger than that, son. Like we own this state, but it's that prideful thing because whenever I came back to Hampton Roads 757, all those players who did go to UVA, that was from Virginia. I wanted to let them know y'all made a mistake. Like you made a mistake. Like this, it's a prideful thing. And so I think I took it a lot more seriously than I should. Right?
No. You took it the right way. And I think, and it's not just Virginia Tech, I think, and again, I love the young kids. I just think sometimes even when I'm talking to my son, even players I mentor and coach, that mindset you talk about, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to embrace that that competition.
I love competing. I love the competition, and I love when I see my brothers out there and they got a hit and they standing up like the running back or receiver is still up. It's like, oh, we about to get a piece of this. You know what I mean? Like we got to go get a piece of this shit. It was fun, man. We had fun. It was practice. I mean, practice to us was like games because we balled out in practice, and it was so much tougher and harder that when we got in the games, we were just like, yo, we go harder on each other than we do in this game. They don't even know. And the greatest respect I think I received, and I know numerous of my brothers received, my teammates received, was that the opponents would say, man, what are y'all doing? Like, what are y'all taking? You know, like, y'all big, y'all faster, y'all stronger, y'all play together, y'all smart. Like, what are y'all doing? And for us, it was like, man, like, it was more than just saying we got his back. It was more than just, you know, we hung out together. We talked. We went over defense together. Like, we knew it was a prideful thing. And I think all of that was from Coach Foster. Even though Coach Foster, I got to say this about my man, Coach Foster, he would give his linebackers a lot of blitzes. He would give Vincent Hall and I mean a DB all the blitzes, man. Vince Hall and the DB all the blitzes.
Yeah. He loved his back as that 9 and number 11. But you know what? I think your example of intensity and brotherhood was on display one night. I know you've been asked about this, and I got to ask you on your legacy spotlight. I'm at home, another Thursday night game against a thorn in our side, going back to my day, and even before me, Boston College.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were nice. Y'all were on a roll again, and you and your brother, Vince Hall, to it on national TV. And I remember that, but see, as anyone who's played, it wasn't anything where a lot of people thought y'all were going to square up, but I knew what y'all were talking about because I played. But from a viewership standpoint, it looks like Beamer and company and Foster are losing control of the team. And I've asked Brendan Hill about this because you and Vince are going at it. And I know you, and I know Vince, and I said, man, somebody need to come over there.
Yeah.
And then you look, and you got Brendan Hill on the field dancing, and we losing. And then you had Kurt Herbstreit talking about, I just want Virginia Tech to return to the days of when they just played. And do you remember that night, that whole situation?
I remember it vaguely, but I know for a fact, like the media always going to exacerbate it, exacerbate issues. And there wasn't issues. I think one of the things about our defense what made us so special is we held each other accountable. So Foster and Whammy and the whole defensive staff, all they had to do was give us the playbook, and we would hold each other accountable. And I think that's what it got down to. It's like, I'm going to hold Vince accountable. He going to hold me accountable as well. And Brendan, he just know we brothers. It's like, man, we gonna work this out. You know what I mean? Like it's not as bad as it looked, because the media and the world, they're not inside our locker room. They don't know the relationship we had. I think, in hindsight 2020, when we play on an outside or on opposing team home, we don't care about nothing that goes out around us. About the stands are saying, what the media keeps saying, all our attention and focus is on each other. And when that gets out of sync, it's like, yo, you got to get that back into sync. You know what I mean? It's not, wait a minute, what does this look like? We fuss, and it's like, no, like you my brother, something's not off. We got to get this reconnect back right. And like your brother, any team, you can have those situations where, it's going to be heated. But I don't know exactly what happened on that play, but I know out of that, Vince and I have grown, I would like to say grown closer from that, because it was like, yo, like, again, it was about self-assessment, self-accountability. We will hold each other to very high standards, and that's what you need. Like, we don't need, like, the coaches come in pointing fingers, this and that. It was, hey, if I see you doing wrong or messing up, I'm going to call it out to you. Now, everybody can say, well, how you call it out, it could be the debatable, but that's what I love playing about that team. It won't like, no, you had a gripe and I'm going to keep it, I'm going to swallow it, keep it in, and next thing you know, 2 games down the line, it comes out. It was, no, we're going to confront our issues head on to solve it right now, so that way it don't continue to harm us in the future. And that's one thing, man. I mean, I wish we would do that today in politics, but I love the guys who, I really do love the guys who I had the opportunity to play with, man. Especially that era, that team, we were special.
Yeah, you were, Aaron. And to be blunt, I think that is what Virginia Tech, when they mentioned getting back to with the new staff and Justin Hamilton, they're not talking about my era. They're talking about your era, when 10 to 11 wins was the standard, and you guys are trying to get a national championship. Number 1 ranked defenses, conference championships, the streak against UVA, the fact that it wasn't Miami and it wasn't Clemson and it wasn't Florida State, it was Virginia Tech. People don't remember, unless they're longtime fans of the ACC or Virginia Tech football, Clemson and Florida State were trying to get back on top and take Virginia Tech off the mountaintop. Which is so funny, because now we're trying to get there. We had a splash in 2015 or 16, I think, in the ACC Coastal Champs, but since then it's been up and down. But I'm going to talk about your legacy. After everything, your great times with Virginia Tech, you had great games. Y'all had some legendary defenses. You move on to NFL, which you talk about, your time in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, growing up on the South Side in the 757, not really knowing about recruiting. Now you're talking about, wow, I made this dream come true that I wasn't even realize was possible with college. Now all of a sudden the NFL is looking at you.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? So I mean, I know how it happened as far as like going to the league, but like, when did it hit you? Like, okay, I'm going to this next level. Because a lot of guys who are talented like yourself don't even get a free agent deal, don't even get drafted. But talk about that year for you leading up to it.
Well, before I talk about that, I want to talk just want to touch on getting when people say, you know, we want to get back to that era of Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech recruited like those dogs, you know, those physical type of mentality type players who maybe didn't do everything right, you know, who come from very, very rough beginnings, who wasn't as polished people, but they got on the field. They were like, this is where coaches made their bread and butter. This is why the coaching staff at Virginia Tech was so good, you know, because they took players, and I think they took more of a responsibility to say, all right, we know this player, he rough, he come from a rough background, but we got to teach him and mold him, you know. Like Coach, I learned so much from Coach Beamer and that coaching staff about class, you know, about you know, discipline, responsibility. That's making a difference. I think a lot of times now, not just Virginia Tech, when the coaching college world recruiting, they stay away from players who may be too rough, you know what I mean, or who are not like clean cut or something. But I don't know about this player, because it's like, no, if you're gonna recruit a player and say we're welcoming you into a family and we want to help you mold you into young men, that you can't be ready to kick that kid out when they make a mistake. You know, well, it's a service.
Aaron, no, not to cut you off. I think you're 100% right. I've gone on record saying that not only on my Legacy Spotlight with other guests that are from that area, or even guys from Richmond, but I've said that even on when I've been interviewed. Yeah. And they say, what's missing? Look, let me. One thing Beamer and Steinspring and those guys don't get enough credit for is they went into areas, because Roniel mentioned this. There were some college coaches who would not go to a Young Spark. There were guys that would not go to Eastern Newport Gardens. So the reality is, excuse me, what you're talking about is they took a chance on guys that maybe didn't come from the two-parent home or had some rough edges around them. And I think that is what I loved about Frank Beamer. And he also allowed you guys to be yourself. There's some people, when you talk about that dog mentality, for those watching this, that's not an insult. In sports, that's a compliment. And I think that's what you and Vince Hall and so many guys, Vegas Robinson, Jimmy
Vegas.
Williams, you know, those guys had an edge to them. I mean, look, I may be biased because Marcus is fan, but I remember when you guys went to Morgantown and he showed the Mountaineer fans some love. I listen, and I'm not complimenting what he did against Louisville when he stomped on Duberville's leg, but understand that edge is something that guys will play for and follow. You agree?
Right. Yeah, most definitely. And again, it's about helping molding these young men. You know what I mean? Molding these young boys into men. But that, I just wanted to touch on that. Going to the NFL throughout my career, a lot of people know I had a son my freshman year in college.
I forgot about that. You did. That's right.
So it was like, you know, I was a full-time student, I was a dad, and I was an athlete, man. So I didn't have the typical college, you know, student athlete experience. For me, you know, I'm up early, I'm doing papers, I'm in the weight room, I'm calling home, I'm watching film, I'm getting ready for the game. And after the game, I would drive home 5.5 hours to Virginia Beach, like every other week.
After a game?
After a game, I would drive home like numerous times. I mean, every other week, I would drive home. And you know about Wednesday mornings, right?
Yes.
And so Wednesday mornings, a lot of times, like, I would come back late because, you know, I came home from seeing my son. So I would come back late, and I would like be late to a meeting or miss a meeting. And they'd be like, all right, you got a Wednesday morning. Man, I got so good at Wednesday mornings, it was just part of my conditioning, you know.
So hold on, Aaron. For those watching, the Wednesday morning is a punishment Beamer and the coaches would give players if they didn't follow team rules, dress code, missing class, any kind of conduct detrimental to the team. That wasn't major, but it was still accountability. And it's an hour and a half of straight conditioning.
Basically.
So I just wanted to clarify. You can continue. I just want to make
sure. No. I'm glad you clarified that. And so I was doing that through all out college. You know, I was papers driving. That's why I know, you know, we'll get into my faith, but my faith is so strong in Christ. Because every time I would be after the game, bruised up, you know, I had broken bones one time, broke this hand. I would make it home 5.5 hours, and I never got into a car accident or nothing, you know. So God protected me, because I wanted to make sure my son and you know, my family, his mother understood I was going to be there, you know, for them. I wasn't just off at college having this great time, you know. I made sure that no, they was always the focal point of the reason why I was in college. So I'm having this great career. In fact, you know, my junior year in college, if I would have came out in college my junior, I probably would have been a first round draft pick. But I made a promise to my mom. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make sure I graduate from college before I go into the NFL draft. And so I stayed throughout, you know, another year. Coach Beamer and spoke to Coach Beamer and Stein Springer or Foster. I believe it's one of the two. Said, no, you know, I'm gonna make sure, you know, I'm gonna come back to school and make sure I graduate from college. And then my senior year, I didn't have this great senior year. It hurt my draft status, but off the field, you know, I was dealing with a lot, you know, of thinking about, did I make a mistake? You know, did I not grow? Also, I was dealing with the fact that my grandfather at the time had just passed. And my grandfather was so instrumental in who I was as a person, because he gave me 3 important values. So keep God first, work for everything that you want, and your word is your bond. He instilled those values in me when I was 10 years old, because when I was 10 years old, my grandmother died from breast cancer. And so when she died from breast cancer, all the Christmases and everything in our house just stopped, you know, because my grandmother was the one who would help us out with those things. So when that stopped, my grandfather was like, it's time to go to work. Like, you got to go to work. And that instilled in me that work ethic about working at the bus garage and schools and Farm Fresh Target, cutting grass, doing all of those things. So my junior year when he died, like, I didn't know, my senior year when he died, I didn't really know how to handle that, you know. And then dealing with frustration, certain things at Virginia Tech, I was just like, man, like, just whatever. And then I go throughout the NFL draft, and I'm not knowing I don't know what's going to happen in the draft. You know what I mean? But I end up being drafted by the Green Bay Packers, which was almost surreal, because I'm sitting back home and I'm surrounded by my family, and the draft is on, and everybody's, you know, like, when are you going to go? When are you going to go? But for me, I'm looking at, you know, my son right now is 3 years old. You know, I got a son. I got my family who really, you know, we've been in poverty all our life. You know, what happens if I don't get drafted? That I'm thinking about. I got my degree from my mom. You know, I'm thinking about my dad was never in our life, but it's something like I wonder if he watching it in jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all these things that's going through my head. And finally, you know, and I'm thinking about the fact that it was a sense of at this time, at this point in my life, it was a sense of too much pride, right? Because I'm like, you go from having all this worry about what happened if I don't, to remember you got yourself through high school, you graduated, you got yourself through college, you got your son here, you got your family here. And then you see your name come across. First of all, you get that phone call, and they let you know, talking to Mike McCarthy, we're going to draft you in the next pick. And you like, all right. You know what I mean? You really don't. I'm one of those guys, man, when I get, like, really good news, I don't know how to, like, respond to it. Yeah, take it. Because really good news to me in my life has been so far in between that when I do I don't know how to, like, respond. I'm just like, all right, okay, you know, but I'm like really excited. I just don't know how to show it. And it come across the TV, and all the family was excited. Everybody was great, and I was like, wow, I'm going to Green Bay. Damn, man, it cold there. You know, and it was love, man. It was an exciting time, and I was so proud, and I'm still so proud to be drafted by such a distinguished organization.
Yeah, and you had a very good NFL career. It was something I know you were proud of, but I think what's even more impressive is the legacy you've now created post NFL, post college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are a part of the community now. Like, you are an integral part of
Mm-hmm.
change. I mean, you're in politics and talking to people around the way, and Coach Steinspring. You talk about sudden change on defense, pick sixes, and
Right.
recover the
Right.
fumble. This is definitely sudden change because people are so proud of you and believe in you. But I don't know anybody that I've talked to that saw this coming. You being a city councilman, the youngest city councilman in Virginia Beach history.
Right.
Let's talk about how in the world that happened, and what has that been like, and what are your plans as you move forward? Because obviously, you know, you and I are on the social media platform. I'm watching and following your career. I'm seeing the stuff. I couldn't vote for you. I live in Northern Virginia. So you got my virtual vote.
I appreciate that.
But no, even if you weren't a Hokie, even if you went to UVA or Maryland, just knowing your story, reading about you, and just knowing people that believe in you. I see the write-ups. I see people, the videos. There's a strong contingency of people that believe in you, Aaron. Like, and Coach Steinspring said, and I really want you to see his interview because it moved me. He said, that man has something bigger in store. He's not done yet. I'm paraphrasing, but it was pretty much those words.
Yeah.
How in the world did you get to where you are now? As far as, did you wake up one day, did you see something going on in the community that moved you, that said, you know what, I got to be part of the solution?
Well, I think, you know, I always wanted to be part of the solution. I mean, it's the reason why I always came back home when I was at Tech, when I was in the league. And I've always, you know, I was always giving, use this analogy, giving the youth the fish, right? I was never really teaching them how to fish, right? I was giving them the fish. And so for me, it was always about, all right, being in the community, because I know how it is. Like, you coming from the bottom, like I'm talking about the bottom of society, it being able to work its way up. I want to have more of an impact for our youth, for the next generation, about, all right, this is the pathway to go forward. And I've seen all the pitfalls. I've seen that so many of my friends have you know, wasn't able to overcome. And so I wanted to always have more of an impact, but that's how God works in mysterious ways, because I never thought to myself I would be a council member, right? But living this, having these values of being respectful to everyone you meet, keeping an open mind, and that working position. So about 5 years ago, when I retired from the NFL, James Church, who is my godfather, who's been, I mean, he has so much influence on athletes out of the 757 as well. Ron Year, Keith Burnell, and others alike coming out of this area. And he's a auto dealer. So one day he was like, listen, come to Richmond with me. Go to Richmond. And because it was lobby day, and the auto dealers, they were lobbying for something. But I was like, I looked at him and I was like, man, I ain't trying to go to Richmond. Like, I don't want to go to Richmond and all these guys and men and women in suits. And, you know, I thought I knew, you know, I thought I had an understanding of what really happened, right? Mind you, before I get started with that, I'm a sociologist major. Number one. And so I always wanted to understand how my environment worked, and why was I one of so many, you know, one of a few who've made it out of the ghetto, so to speak. So fast forward to this, I go to James Church to Richmond, and when I'm on Capitol Hill in Richmond, you know, they're football enthusiasts, sports enthusiasts, and they're like, oh, there go Aaron Rouse. You know, he's great Virginia Tech Hokie right there. Oh, I'm a huge Packer fan. That's Aaron Rouse. Come into my office. You know, can I get a picture with you? And so with those opportunities, I was like, yeah, sure, you can get your picture, but tell me about what you're doing here. You know, what is it you do? And they're like, oh, well, I sit on this board. You know, this is my district. I'm on this committee. This is what we do. And so a light bulb went off, and I was like, so this are all the decisions that are being made far upstream, right? I get a chance to see, and downstream in the hood, I'm looking at, you know, our streets not being paved, lights, or we don't have stoplights, or our schools are underfunded, or business disparities, housing. I'm looking at all these issues, and it's like, oh, so this is where all of this happens at.
Yep.
And so I didn't care about D's or R's. You know, I didn't care if you were Democrat, Republican. I wanted to know, what did you know? You know, and sports was that bridge that allowed me to get in those circles, so to speak. And when I was able to get in those circles, I got to know like the people. You know, that was always my thing anyway, is get to know the person. Because coming from the hood, being 6'4", 225-pound Black man, it was always preconceived notions about who I was. And nobody really got the time to see or to learn, like, what are you interested in?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people still surprised. I like jets. You know what I mean? I like planes. They're like, oh, it's like, yeah, get to know me, who I am. And so when I meet anyone, I don't care if you're D or R or what, you know, people say, you know, what stereotypes of what they say you are. I want to know who you are as a person, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I got an opportunity to learn on both sides of the aisle. You know, I learned for almost every opportunity I got the chance to go to Richmond. It was like 3-some years. I went, and I used, you know, I used that, you know, when you say football or, you know, that type of, you know, my background to learn. And so when I learned the process of politics, and I learned how government is supposed to work, I said, you know, I want to have more of an impact in my community. Now it's time for me to teach the next generation how to fish, instead of me just giving book bags and giving supplies or giving back food, which is all great. I want to teach them how to go get their own food, how to come back and give to the next generation. And so when I said that, a lot of people was like, don't waste your time with local politics. You know, it get real messy. Yeah. And my rebuttal to that was, if I can't make a difference in my own home, you know, where I'm from, I'll be no good up here at the state level. Yep. And so I was like, great. So I came back home, and again, I love Virginia Beach so much, and I have an opportunity because of sports and gaining my education. I've seen parts of the city that I have never saw before, and I've been living here my whole life, you know. Yeah. And I go back to those community leaders who were teachers who were like, all right, I see this kid is trying, I'm gonna help him out. I'm going, you know, help him with extra credit, or I'm gonna help him get this paper so he get a high grade on this paper. I'm gonna give him extra work, or I'm gonna help him with it. The teachers, the coaches, even the police officers. Like, I had a resource officer, you know, coming from the hood, so to speak, right? Yeah. We don't talk to the police. Like, that's not what we do, right? And so for me, I was under that same stigma of, we don't deal with the police. Like, that ain't what we do. And so at first, going to high school, it was this resource officer. Dude started talking to me like every single day, right? He would be like, hey, man, how you doing? And I was like, what this police talking to me for? What this cop talking to me for, man? I was like, I know I ain't do nothing, right? And so eventually it was like, hey, man, what's up? You know, and we built this friendship up, and I got to see him more than just a uniform. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, all right, yeah, like, you know, all policemen are not bad. You know what I'm saying? And then he got to see too, like, all young Black men and women coming up aren't criminals, aren't bad. You know what I mean? Like, we have dreams other than just playing sports. And so we both learned from each other and built that bridge. And so for me, I knew that if I was feeling like this, it was other people in the communities, particularly where I'm from, that's feeling the same way. That's like, what kind of access do we have to resources, but also what's the idea of being successful, and what does that mean? successful doesn't, and particularly in the Black community, doesn't mean you have to become an athlete, you know what I mean, or a rapper or some form of entertainment to be successful. It means that you will never stop growing and continue to learn to be lawyers, doctors, politicians, councilmen, teachers, police officers, first responders. Success, that's what that looks like. And so that was that still is my whole approach to coming back home, letting the next generation know and the community know, listen, yes, we have a good community, we can be better. There's a lot of areas that needs more attention and focus, and social injustices of minorities and Black Americans are just the tip of the scale. You know, there's institutional racisms that we need to dissolve. And the only way you can do that is by having a seat at the table. And it's not about, you know, people feeling guilty, oh, this is always be pervasive. No, it's about adapting and taking the next step going forward. That's why, you know, in today's world, I really get irritated with party politics. You know what I mean? Because party politics, it's not focused on humanity, so to speak.
Yep.
And yes, there are many issues out there, many issues that you can take, you know, a stance on. But for me, at the very heart and premise of it is our humanity. I think decisions should be based on, is this good for humanity? Is it good for our city, our country, our state? That's how I base, you know, my decision off of. And like, I get the party politics, I get all that, but I feel like nowadays what's being lost in that whole conversation, and I know it, is the people, is really serving the people. And that's where I'm like, look, I feel as though when I first ran, people are like trying to tug me into these groups. Like, you need to define yourself as this. You need to define yourself as that. And I'm like, why can't I love my community and want to lift up everybody? You know what I'm saying? And judge each issues on the merit. And that's where we have to get back to, you know, it's almost like football when you got the offense and the defense going at it. And it's like, but y'all on the same team. You know what I mean? Like, you on the same team.
Yeah.
If y'all going at each other, and then you get out there and try to play this game on a world stage, you're going to lose. Because y'all not one unit. You're not operating together. And I look at the offense defense is going at it. You know who the special team is? The people. And if you know, like us Hokies, like the special team is your bread and butter, right? They're going to make you. And so that's how I view it. I feel like the people is our special team. And you got these parties who are offense, defense, and you can make a determination on who's offense, who's defense, or whatever. But they're going at it so hard that, you know, the special teams, the people are looking like, yo, we on the same team. You know, let's find some common ground and go forward. So that's something for me. The other, and I'm talking quite a while. I just get real passionate about it.
No, it's okay. It's okay, because I'm listening.
And I feel you. But the other thing too, it was coming from, you know, Friendship Village and Young's Park. Again, I wanted to kind of, let the youth, the next generation know there are other ways of being successful. And I know I touched on it earlier, but for them to see someone who did make it to the NFL, who did go to college, and now is a councilman, I want them to see that, yes, you can be more than just an athlete.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to just play on a field or a court or something. You can be an integral part, and you are an integral part of your community, and we need you. We really do need you. So whenever I do have a book bag drive or supply drive or something like that, I never invited back, you know, my celebrity football friends. You know, I invited community leaders, business leaders, those who of all races, all color, who hold all different type of respected jobs in our community. And I'm like, they need to see this. You know, they need to see that, and not so much as, oh, I got my man Michael Vick here, or Cam Chancellor here, or, you know, D'Angelo Hall here, and it's like, I gotta be this football player. And it's like, no, that's right. It's like, that's great, you know, that's great. I want to make sure you fulfill your aspirations, but in reality, this is where it matters, and this is where it counts.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, man, that's where it is. I love my city. I love our country. I want to lift us up. You know what I mean? It's almost like I want to build that bridge, but the issues we're facing today, we must acknowledge them. You know what I mean? That's, you know, like any problem you have on a football team, whether you're not squeezing the gap, you know what I mean, or you not reading the right formation, or you ain't making the right checks in time, you wrong shouldering wrong, or anything on that field, the smallest detail is gonna make you lose.
Yeah.
And so here in politics, I'm like, we have to take that same approach to where we are like not ignoring the issues or problems that we've had for centuries. We are acknowledging them, and we're saying, this is how we're going to solve it. We're going to move forward. We're not going to put in feel-good measures that say, you know, oh, we just have it. It's good on paper. It's like, no, what's the actual changes we're making?
For sure.
And so now, you know, that's where we are now. It's like, all right, I'm an older millennial. I'm an older millennial. I'm getting up there, but I'm an older millennial, and so I understand the changes where we are now. You know, is like, this is where we are now. It's the reason why I was running for mayor. It's like, we need changes now. You have to have somebody who can relate and understand to where we are now, not only as a community, but as a country, in order to make those changes, because those old established ways of doing things are outdated and are no longer relevant.
Yeah. You know, Aaron, you're dropping some gems, man. And I completely agree. You really moved me in the point that you made about teaching young men and young women that they can be more than an athlete. Don't settle on just using athletics and entertainment as your only way to success, which I actually posted a video I did an interview several years ago on Instagram about. But at the same time, we've come to the part in the show where we're wrapping up. And what I allow my guests to do is to leave an impactful point that you want to make for people viewing this video, this interview. You have experienced highs and lows, and you've learned from your previous mistakes and shortcomings, and you've also built on the success and strength that you've encountered. And you have now become so much bigger than a standout safety. You've taken all the challenges, and you now stand tall with pride about uplifting your community. And congratulations, I believe you recently just got engaged, correct?
Yes. Got engaged. Yes. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, man. I saw that on the book the other day, man. So you are being blessed tremendously, but you're taking those blessings and uplifting others. Tell everybody right now, this is your final point on this show, and then of course you got many more points to make. What you plan to do for your community. I know you're talking about running for mayor, but just bigger picture, what people need to do to make their community better. What would you tell young people that are out here struggling, that went through what you went through? And most importantly, what do you have? What is your vision as you move forward?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to White for having me on here and for this platform. If there's anything I want people to take away, is that we are here to serve each other. You know, when I read the Bible and have a understanding of the Bible, you know, God says to us, you know, the greatest among us are those who serve. And so for the times that we are living in now, ask yourself, like, what can I do to improve someone's day, life, demeanor? What can I do to uplift humanity? I want us to remember our humanity, you know, that we live in a society built on social structures that we're finding inhibit or oppress people in different ways. And so for those people out there, particularly young people, I want you to know, listen, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, and always, believe in yourself, but keep an open mind and find ways to be helpful to your community. I think for me, it was the fact that I never quit. Number one, I never really gave up. But no matter who I came in contact with, or who I met, I was like, I always had a respect for them. And if I didn't like you, I just didn't deal with you. But I wasn't going to bring you down or felt like I had to be in confrontation with you. I just stayed away. And so I think that the takeaway, what I'm saying is, believe in yourself, and make sure you are a help to your society. Remember that remember humanity first, so to speak. That's a deep question. I'm like in my head with so much.
It's okay. It's okay.
With so much I want to say, but it's because I understand where we are now, and being someone who basically felt like I was at the bottom of the world, and then having to work and overcome so many obstacles, and understanding that, the responsibility of success is really on me. It wasn't on anyone else. And I understand the social structures and the social impacts and the institutional racism that persevere. Well, my key to that is not become bitter, but find ways to dismantle those structures, right? And find ways that I can actually get with like-minded people and build up partnerships and coalitions that's going to help out all humanity and make sure that our system is truly a system that you have the ability of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's where I am now and I think so much we've gotten so far down the road that we've let symbols, or social structures, or party politics get in the way of really lifting humanity, really lifting America, so to speak. And we got to get back to that. We got to remind ourselves that if my neighbor cannot eat, then how can I? If justice is denied to my neighbor, then justice, it will be denied to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to start caring more about each other, having more humility and understanding and compassion to change or to make the system better for everyone. And that's how I approach my office. That's my vision, is not to be pulled into the old way of politicking or saying you gotta be in this group or you gotta align yourself with this group in order to make real change. I think change is in everybody's hand, and we all have the ability to change the structure. We have to, and I hate saying come together because it sounds so cliche. You know what I mean?
No, but I know what you mean.
But we have to work together on a conscious note of what we're really trying to do. And that's where I am. I'm sorry I get all
No,
over
you
the
answered
place.
it fine. No, because you care. And I can tell a sincere answer, as people watching this interview can tell, someone who cares and is sincere. And you've been a great guest. I'm such a big fan of the man you've become and what you have in store and the impact you're going to have in Virginia Beach and in Virginia. And I know, most importantly, the kids in the community and the families that you serve and work with will be inspired and be appreciative for what you will continue to do as a councilman and one day a mayor. I'm going to speak that into existence.
Most
And
definitely, I appreciate that.
Who knows? And who knows what's after that? But once again, Aaron, I want to thank you for jumping on. This has been a great legacy spotlight. I'm very thankful for your insight, reflecting on those great teams that you played on, but most importantly, sharing your journey and your legacy with everybody that's watched this show today.
I want to thank you again, Dwight, because you helped start that pathway for the Michael Vincks, and that led to the Aaron Rouses of the world. you are a foundation of Virginia Tech football, man. I know what you all Big East type player. You know what I mean? I know what you've done as well, man. And for you coming from the 757, being one of the first, and to go to Virginia Tech, you made it cool to go there. You know, so it's the reason why Virginia Tech is where it is now. Somebody had to be the first and one of the first, and you were that, man, and you represented us so well that you made the Brian Steinsprings of the world and the Kavanaughs of the world come back to Hampton Roads to find more players like yourself, man. So I just want to say thank you for leading the way and the foundation, part of that foundation, man, that helps solidify my class and other classes that come after.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you and those kind words, man. I thank you. And as an OG, it feels good to be recognized.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Respect for you, man.
Yeah, man. But thank you again, Aaron. And thank you for those guys that are watching our show. Again, the support for Victory Life Legacy Spotlight and Aaron Rouse is greatly appreciated. And like I say, every show, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you leave a positive impact and a great legacy. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Dewar.